Hi there, my name is Tracy Fritz, and I did my energy harm project on the environmental impact of Avista's Kettle Falls biomass plant in Kettle Falls, Washington. It's a wood-fired renewable energy plant. About Avista, my first slide talks a little bit about who Avista Utilities are. They were founded in 1889 and were known as Washington Water Power and rebranded to Avista Corporation in 1999. They are headquartered in Spokane and are publicly traded. Avista serves electricity to nearly 418,000 customers and natural gas to about, over 300,000 customers in eastern Washington, northern Idaho, and some parts of Oregon. Their energy portfolio is a mix of hydropower, natural gas, coal, wind, solar, and biomass. Strong focus on clean energy transition with goals of carbon neutrality and carbon neutral electricity by 2027 and 100% clean energy by 2045. Their key infrastructure is Avista is a major utility here in the Pacific Northwest. The Kettle Falls biomass plant is actually one of the first utility-owned biomass plants in the country. It runs a mix of energy sources, which include hydropower, natural gas, and biomass, and the biomass plant, which I said earlier. And because Avista provides power across the region, their energy decisions don't just affect their customers. They also influence air quality, how forests are managed, and what kind of opportunities or harms rural areas experience. That's why it's important to look at plants like the Kettle Falls plant more closely, even if the energy is renewable. About biomass energy. The term biomass energy refers to the organic matter in trees, agricultural crops, and other living plant material burned to create energy. Here's how it's done at Avista. Wood waste called hog fuel is fed into a 7-story furnace boiler and burned, creating heat. The walls of the furnace boiler consist of pipes filled with water that are heated by burning hog fuel. The optimal burning temperature is 2,000 degrees, resulting in steam temperature of 950 degrees. The plant burns 70 tons of wood waste per hour during full operations. That amount of fuel would fill 2 fully loaded trucks. And one thing that the plant does well is control visible air pollution by removing 99.9% of particulates from the flue gas using mechanical collectors and electrostatic precipitators before emissions leave the smoke stack. It's important to note that removing particulates doesn't necessarily mean the air is completely clean. More about the Kettle Falls biomass generating station. Fueling capacity. The plant burns approximately 500,000 tons of hog fuel annually. They receive on average about 5 truckloads of hog fuel a day, maintaining a 90-day full inventory to keep it running efficiently, just in case if anything happens, like trucks are tied up and don't get sawmill chips there in time. Originally, the plant produced 42.5 megawatts of electricity. However, over time, upgrades have been made, such as natural gas turbine, which boosted the energy produced to 61 megawatts, which provides electricity to over 40,000 homes in the area. And in 2002, Avista added a Taurus 70 gas turbine, I don't even know what that means, to improve the plant's performance. And how that works is that the turbine generates electricity using natural gas. The heat it produces is captured by a heat recovery steam generator. The heat is then used to produce more steam, which helps power the original steam turbine. this helps lower the emissions. Benefits of biomass. It uses wood waste from local sawmills and forest thinning instead of fossil fuels. It helps reduce pressure on landfills and slash burning. It captures carbon that would be released during natural decomposition or open burning and displaces fossil fuel use. With carbon neutral energy, and then it replaced wigwam burners, which are up in the right hand corner. Before plants like this existed, mills used to use wigwam burners, the cone-shaped structures, to get rid of wood waste. They produced a lot of smoke and particulate pollution. Biomass energy is a cleaner alternative to that outdated practice. So here's some detailed emissions that I got off of decarbmystate.com, which provides stats on carbon pollution by state. So annual CO2 is over 12,000 metric tons. Annual nitrogen oxygen is over 400,000 tons. Annual emissions from methane is over 300,000 tons. I forgot to write tons there. Annual sulfur dioxide is more than 56 tons, and annual nitrous oxide emissions is over 40,000 pounds. And the next slide will explain the harms of all of these emissions. So for carbon dioxide, all of these promote to pollution in the air, but carbon dioxide contributes to climate change through greenhouse gases. And even though biomass is called carbon neutral, burning it releases carbon dioxide immediately, while regrowth of the trees takes decades. Nitrogen oxide contributes to smog and ground level ozone, which is linked to lung damage and affects asthma sufferers, and creates acid rain, polluting local water resources. Methane is an extremely potent greenhouse gas, traps approximately 84 times more heat than carbon dioxide. And sulfur dioxide results in acid rain, which damages soils and aquatic ecosystems, and has been known to cause respiratory distress, especially in children and the elderly. And nitrous oxide is known to contaminate groundwater, particularly in rural communities, which Kettle Falls is a rural community. Even though Avista has systems in place to reduce the risk of nitrogen-related groundwater, still over time groundwater can be affected. Water use and lawsuits that Avista has had against them. So the water use comes from biomass combustion, which requires a large amount of water this is what it's for, steam generation, cooling the turbine, and controlling emissions, like handling the ash and scrubbers. The estimated use, according to the Department of Ecology, the plant uses 300 to 480 gallons of water per megawatt hour. At full output, that is it's between 400,000 and 700,000 gallons of water daily. And that water comes from wells and surface water in the community. So it's the community's water that is being pulled for this electricity generation. Stevens County, which is the county where Kettle Falls is a drought-prone county, and the water usage can stress water availability for homes, farms, and ecosystems. And just recently, the National Integrated Drought Information System said that this June was the fourth driest June on record in over 131 years. And the drought affects over 43,000 people in Stevens County. And a couple of the lawsuits that have been brought against Avista, one was for an environmental violation, where Avista was accused by the government of illegally cutting down trees and disturbing an archaeological site on federal land near Kettle Falls while moving and replacing a power pole, according to the news station KXLY.com. Additionally, soil contamination was identified near the Kettle Falls plant in 2013 and 2014, requiring further exploration and testing, which goes to show you that just because it's renewable energy, a lot of these things come up over time and need to be addressed. And then another lawsuit was a wildfire lawsuit in 2018. The Washington Department of Natural Resources and the Attorney General filed a lawsuit. The Attorney General at the time was Bob Ferguson, who is now our governor. The lawsuit blamed Avista for the Boyd's fire, which destroyed homes and burned approximately 4,712 acres of land. Some of the remedies that the policy and community remedies that I'm suggesting are water resource protection. Avista withdrew a major water rights application in Idaho in 2005 after concerns about overuse of the Rathdrum Prairie Aquifer. However, I was unable to find documentation that the Kettle Falls plant has capped water use or drought year restrictions or required metering in place. So my suggested remedy would be to establish enforceable withdrawal limits during droughts and implement transparent water usage reporting. As for emissions controls and public health, the plant holds a Clean Air Act Title V permit from the Washington State Department of Ecology, which ensures legal compliance, but may not require advanced pollution controls like nitrogen oxide and sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide and sulfur dioxide. So I couldn't find any evidence of any public health monitoring or emissions transparency efforts. So my suggested remedy is to adopt modern emission technology and make pollution data and health risks publicly accessible. And for the tribal and rural community inclusion remedy, Avista's integrated resource plan references stakeholder input, but I didn't find anything showing formal consultation with the Colville Confederated Tribes or the rural community near Kettle Falls. So my suggested remedy is to initiate formal tribal consultation and community involvement, possibly through a community forum. My key takeaways from this project were biomass is often labeled as a good renewable energy source, but even cleaner energy solutions can come with hidden environmental and social costs. The Avista Kettle Falls plant demonstrates that localized harms like water stress, air pollution, and lack of community inclusion can arise even from renewables. That there's gaps in transparency and community engagement mean that some impacts may still be unknown or underreported. Biomass, I recently read some stories in a book called Drawdown, and it discussed how biomass can play a short-term bridge role in reducing fossil fuel use, but it's not a perfect or permanent fix. And critical oversight and policy are needed to ensure that renewables truly benefit communities and ecosystems, not just energy grids. Here are my resources. Take a look at those. And I appreciate your time in watching my video on the environmental harms of Kettle Falls Biomass Power Plant. Thank you.